Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday. Hopefully, you all are doing well. Hopefully, you had a good week. We've made it to the weekend once again. We're going to talk a little college football for tomorrow. Maybe talk some NFL DFS too. If you guys have questions on anything, you can go ahead and ask. I'll be live again, obviously, Sunday morning, not anticipating any internet issues this week. So, hopefully, 11 a.m. Sunday stream this Sunday as well. To recap yesterday, shout out to Jake Tonges, however you pronounce this guy's last name. Just absolutely legendary performance from this guy. First touchdown, 20-1 winner. Anytime touchdown, 4-1 winner. Free roll in the weekend thanks to our favorite number 88 there for the San Francisco 49ers. Also had him in a parlay, 30 yards, parlayed with the under 9.5 in the Cleveland-Detroit game. Cleveland-Detroit got sweaty because it finished with 9 runs. Tigers went absolutely crazy in the 7th inning, and then the Guardians scored a couple runs too. And then it got sweaty with Tonjes too. He scored early, and then he was sitting on 29 yards for forever. And I was like, dude, are we really going to miss that by 1 yard? Not really in a position to complain when you hit a 20-1 first touchdown score, but I was like, I'd like to get that 1 more yard, and then he got it in overtime. So shout out, just a legendary performance from our guy there. That was awesome. We're going to talk some of the college games, and like I said, if you have questions on anything there. So now that I've gone in and looked at a deeper dive at all these games, there's some spots I really like this week. So I'm actually pretty excited for the college slate this weekend. And I tweeted it earlier. There's some dogs barking. I'm pretty excited. I think there's some money to be made out there in the CFB streets this weekend. Would you rather have Kendre Miller or Malik Washington as a stash? I would rather have Kendre Miller, Adrian. So he's kind of really cut into Alvin Kamara's early down work recently, which I think kind of coming into the season, I don't think many people thought there was potential for that. But it is a new Saints coaching staff, and Kellen Moore has been more inclined to mix around, those early down runs. And Kendre Miller has really he's cut into Alvin Kamara's early down workload. And he's a threat for some goal line carries too. I think most people coming into the season were anticipating another big Alvin Kamara season with Taysom Hill injured and stuff. And Kendre Miller has played a legit role the last few weeks. And on the Malik Washington side, I do think he'll be more involved without Tyreek Hill, but it's just been more gadgety stuff with him. If you look at last week, after Tyreek went out, it was Nick Westbrook-Akine who actually, kind of took over the majority of those snaps. That could change this weekend. Maybe that was an on-the-fly thing, and they go more heavy with Malik this week. But for now, I'd rather have Kendre Miller on my team. DraftKings has a boost for a 4 leg tonight. Any ideas? If that's college, Ryan, I did take Western Kentucky +3 on DraftKings tonight, but that is the only thing I was really interested in. I do think South Florida, Charlotte's really bad. Really bad. So I don't like to, when we look at these smaller, when I say smaller, these group of 5 schools, I don't really like betting on name your score scenarios, which when the spread is 27, 28 points, that's a name your score spread, right? South Florida is absolutely going to win this game. Charlotte is terrible, not good. So I have no questions about South Florida's ability to win this game, but how motivated are they? Are they really going to put up 30 points? They could win this game by 4 touchdowns. And that's not covering the spread. So, that kind of stuff gets a little sticky. But I do think South Florida, I think they just roll tonight. Charlotte is just terrible. So you could consider South Florida as well. I was gonna put a play on it on South Florida, but since I actually have quite a few plays tomorrow, so I'm not gonna force it. And I like Western Kentucky better if we were just picking one. So. Didn't feel the need to force 2 plays tonight when I have quite a bit of plays for tomorrow. Ladd first touchdown Yeah, you can definitely get Washington. You can get Washington in the secondary, Guru. So Washington's actually allowed, I think, the second or third most like splash plays. Let me pull this up. They've given up some big plays, Washington. So that actually kind of fits in with QJ as well. Kind of a good spot for him. Let me see. I need to bookmark this, so I don't have to search it every time. But let me see. So if you look at, so if we look at adjusted yards gained per pass attempt, Dallas is the worst in the NFL at 10.3. And then you have Miami at 10.1 and then Washington at 9.4. So Washington's giving up 9.4 adjusted yards gained per pass attempt this season. If we just look at yards, like just normal yards gained per pass attempt, it's the same three. Dallas is the worst, Miami second, Washington third. And then if you just look at like yards per completion, Washington actually giving up the highest yards per completion in the NFL by over 2 yards. They're 14.2. Dallas is down around 12. If we look at just like air yards on completions, they're fourth worst. Average depth of target as a defender giving up, their second worst. Like they've given up a lot of stuff down the field. So it's actually a good spot for Quentin Johnston this week. Yeah, he's played good. Trey, what's up? He's played good, Guru. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's played good this year. No pushback from me. He's had a great season. And he's much more of like a red zone target. So let me just look. Like let's look at red zone on the Chargers specifically. So targets inside the 20. He leads the team. He's at 5. And then we have, I don't even think anyone else has more than 2. Yeah, like Gadsden's number has 2. So unless I'm missing. Oh, no. Keenan Allen's right there. So Keenan's at 5 and QJ's at 5. And then you have to go all the way down. Like Ladd, and this carried through last year too. Like Ladd was not a big red zone threat last year. So I don't really know like if that's going to change because they've been motivated to get the ball to Quentin Johnston this year, and I think that's going to continue. Now I do agree though, Guru, about the offensive line. I have some serious questions about their offensive line this week, and that's why I'm really not as interested in that game. I think it's going to be fairly popular from a DFS perspective. You know, it's got a 47.5 total. The Chargers they've been pretty like high owned from a stack perspective the last few weeks. Like they came out and they had those big first 2 weeks, like throwing the ball all around the yard. And that's carried over to like their DFS ownership the last few weeks. So if that spot's going to be owned, I do have questions about the offensive line. So I'm probably not going to play it much. But if I was going to play a Chargers receiver this week, I do think it's QJ. I think he has the best matchup just given the down the field stuff that Washington's given up. And that, you know, correlates more with his game. Yeah, it looks like a pretty good team to me, Adrian. Would you trade Bucky and Rashad White for JSN? Yeah, given your team, Adrian, I would be fine doing that. I mean, you have CMC and Hampton you can kind of rely on. So, yeah, I would probably send that. Tyler Warren Trey is a great DFS play this week. Let me see I haven't looked at updated ownership projections yet. So let's take a look at that right now. But yeah, he's in a good spot. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. This is a smash spot for the Colts. I'll probably end up playing a lot of JT paired with the Colts defense though. And look, JT's not going to be any secret, right? I mean, he's projected to be, you know, the highest owned player on the slate, essentially. So JSN, what I'm seeing right now, JSN, Achane, Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Rico Dowdle. Like that's the highest owned guys on the slate from a DFS perspective. But this is just a nightmare spot for the Raiders, man. On the road, their offensive line was already horrendously bad. And now you subtract Colton Miller, who was like their one respectable offensive lineman. Like him being out, I don't know if we can overstate it. Like this Colts pass rush is just going to eat on Sunday. So I'm kind of looking at the Colts from a betting perspective to cover this 6.5. And look, the Colts are a team I was like, we can maybe look at fading them, but this is just such a good spot. They're going to eat against this Raiders line. So yeah, it's a really, really good spot for the Colts defense. So I kind of like pairing him up with Taylor, but yeah, no issues with Warren. Just, continues to be, after Trey McBride, like probably the most fantasy friendly tight end that you can have on your team. And Geno's washed. Yeah. Geno has not played good. Are we selling high on Genty? Yeah, Nathan, you might have to consider it, man. I don't know. Like no Colton Miller it's just like a disaster scenario. So yeah, I mean, you might have to, like, coming off that big game, you might have to sell high, because if you look at the metrics from last week, he still was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage a ton. It's just the fact that the Bears aren't good. Like he was still just getting there, and he obviously got there with some catches too. And he can get there as a receiver. Like that was one of the reasons why I liked him so much. Even coming out of Boise State and just coming into fantasy this year, it's like he's a very, very good pass catcher, and he didn't get to display that at Boise State because they were either winning the mediocre teams that they played and he was running all over them, or, they had like suspect quarterback play. Like he can be a very, very good pass catching running back. It's just like, yeah, this is just a disaster spot with no Colton Miller. So I'm not very interested in Genty this week for DFS purposes. Definitely think you could sell high on him in some season-long circles if you could get some good offers, but really like the JT Indianapolis Colts pairing this week. I'll probably be pretty heavy on that. And there's some really, really good like mid-tier running back plays this week too. Like when you think about Rachaad White being in the mix, Michael Carter being in the mix, Rico Dowdle being in the mix, and then you still have Hampton, Cam Scatteraboo, Breece Hall. Like a lot of the running back injuries have started to take effect, and that's something we can take advantage. I really, really like Breece Hall this week. Like I'm kind of sad that he's popping for this high owned, and I just don't know. I don't know if I believe he's going to be this high owned, because if you take a look at it, Justin Fields is far and away the highest projected owned quarterback, and then if you look at receiver, Garrett Wilson is like the second highest owned projected receiver. So like, is someone that's hand building a team, like a casual person that's waking up on the weekend and like they're like, I'm going to build a DFS team this week. Like, are they really going to put Breece Hall in with Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson? I just don't really believe that they will. So I'm not saying Breece Hall is going to be low owned or a seeker or anything, but I wouldn't be shocked if Breece comes in like a little bit lower owned, just because. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to play a running back with Fields because they're assuming Fields is going to run touchdowns in. But Breece is my favorite part of that game. We know that the Jets want to run the ball. They've shown us that every single week. They are completely comfortable just running, and you can run on the Cowboys. So I think this is a really, really strong spot. I'm going to be very heavy on Breece Hall this week and JT, and it'll be a three running back week again, probably. So I think you can look at, putting JT in with Breece. And then, if you want to do Achane, Dowdle, Hampton, Scatteraboo, any of those guys along with those two. And then I really like David Montgomery as like a super low owned play. So everyone, I feel like I've seen talking about the narrative of him with Cincinnati and like his family being there and stuff. But I was interested in him in this spot anyways before I knew about the narrative stuff, just because I feel like this style of game really sets up better for David Montgomery compared to like, you're not going to run David Montgomery into a brick wall against that Browns defense, who has a really, really good run defense. Like, you need Jahmyr Gibbs to kind of take over and just do Jahmyr Gibbs things in that situation. Like, you're not going to run David Montgomery into a brick wall in that. This is a way different matchup against Cincinnati. And I think David Montgomery is not going to get played whatsoever. I mean, I would project him. He's got to be less than 5% owned because he's priced at 5,200. You have Scadaboo at 6K. You've got Hampton at 65, and you've got JT and HN above that, and Breece Hall at 56. So you've got 5 guys above him in price, give or take like 1,000 or 2 that are going to be really high owned. And then you've got guys right below him, Dowdle at 43, Rashad White at 47. Those guys are going to be higher owned than him too. And then you got Michael Carter at 4K. Like, I don't see how anybody would be clicking David Montgomery in this spot. So it's probably a better, like, larger field play, but I really like David Montgomery this week too. So I think this is a fun DFS slate. I'm probably going to do what I did last week. Last week I had a pretty tight core. Hampton. I just played a lot of Hampton, a lot of James Cook, and I kind of rotated around from there. I'm probably going to be the same thing for me. Play a lot of Breece, play a lot of Jonathan Taylor, and then I will rotate in another one of those mid-tier running backs and stacks, and that's probably just going to be how I'm building my teams this week. Thoughts on Cincinnati versus Iowa State, Saka? We will get into college right now. Yeah, Nathan. I mean, it's kind of a tough spot for Daniels coming back too, because the Chargers defense and Jesse Minter is very, very good. Don't know how healthy he'll be. Like, he'll be healthy enough to play, but it's like, how much are they going to run him? I just don't know. And then no Terry McLaurin, which they really don't have like that down the field, like, threat. They have guys that can get down the field, but none that the defense is really going to be scared of at the moment. Like, maybe Jalen Lane can become that. Maybe Luke McCaffrey could become that. But right now, like, really not scared of any of those guys. So without Terry McLaurin and it just being Debo, kind of like a tough spot. I think that game could go under that. Like, that's a high total, 47.5. I could definitely see it coming in under that. And I could see either team winning in a close game situation. But like, if it's going to be high owned, and I already think the game's going to go under, like, I'll probably fade that game majority on my DFS teams and just hope that it doesn't get crazy. I'd much prefer playing the Detroit Cincy game in that window. Like, with how banged, dude, Detroit is so banged. We saw this last year. Detroit was super banged up heading into the playoffs in the secondary, and they were just getting worked. I think that it's the same situation. I mean, multiple DBs down for Detroit. They got guys on the D-line. Hutchinson's banged up, but he's going to play. But they're missing some other guys there on the D-line. Jake Browning's been absolutely terrible, but this is a spot at home where I think the Bengals offense could get cooking a little bit with Jamar Chase. And if they offer any pushback to Detroit's offense, like, that game could really, really get crazy. So if I was stacking a late game, I think Detroit Cincy is the spot for me. All right, we'll talk more DFS on the weekend, but for right now, obviously I'll have like my articles out and stuff over the weekend. But for now, like, looks like pretty tight core for me this week. I think I'm gonna play a lot of Breece, a lot of JT, and kind of rotate some stacks around that and see, if we can put ourselves in position again. As for college, let's dive in. So starting off tomorrow, early window, which Saki just asked about, Cincinnati, Iowa State. I think this is my favorite spot on the board, and I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one. So Iowa State is very, very banged up. They are missing multiple all-conference players in the secondary alone. And when you think about what Cincinnati wants to do, they want to let Brennan Sorsby kind of get cooking here. And, the wide receivers have played well for Cincinnati over the last few weeks. He's not, I don't see really Iowa State having any threat in terms of like getting to him. And they're banged up on both sides of the ball, Iowa State. So I think it's just too many injuries to overcome for Iowa State. Cincinnati's at home, and particularly with the injuries in the secondary going up against Sorsby and that Cincinnati offense, like they can really get cooking through the air. So I really, really like Cincinnati in that one. And I'm going to be taking them on the money line. Probably my favorite play on the day of the day tomorrow. So Cincinnati in the early window, I really, really like. I think you could take a money line or spread, whatever you prefer. I think it was Trey yesterday or 2 days ago when we were talking about Kansas State Baylor. I didn't end up betting it, but I do think Kansas State's alive in that game. The more I have looked at it, so I think it was Trey. Whoever was talking about Kansas State, I'll support you on that. And that the lines come down a little bit too, as you can see here. It's down to like 5.5. It was I think it was at 6.5. Now it's down to 5.5. There's some fives popping here as well. It's a 5 on Circa. So I do think Kansas State is live there. I wish I would have hopped in on that 6.5. But I'm probably going to do, because I think a lot of underdogs are live this week. I'm going to do an underdog money line parlay, and I'll probably include Kansas State in that. Don't think I'll lay the 5 or 5.5. But if you can get a 6.5, I would still feel fine with it. The problem is DK's at 5.5. I don't have access to Fanatics, and anything I can bet on is at 5 or 5.5. So if you could get a 6.5, I would feel fine with Kansas State. I also think UAB's live in this one. Didn't bet it again, but would fit into like a potential underdog, like round robin or something. I don't think Army's very good. I've bet against them a few times, and UAB's had a week off to prepare for this game, which obviously helps when you're facing a service academy. So good rest spot for UAB. They're at home, and I really just don't think Army's very good anyways. Not that UAB is super good, especially on defense. They have a pretty bad defense, but I think UAB will be able to score, and I think they can cover that spread. But that one's coming down too. It was at 7.5. Now it's down to like 6.5. So that's kind of like my leans in the early game. Michigan, I think, absolutely works Wisconsin. So as far as stuff I bet in the early window, really, really like Cincy. Everything else is kind of just my thoughts on it. So would lean Kansas State side, would lean UAB side. I think Michigan rolls. I think Clemson beats North Carolina, but you couldn't pay me to bet on that game or watch it. I mean, you want to talk about just terrorism, it's that game right there. And speaking of that, has anybody had a worse run out the last few years than Bill Belichick? I mean, seriously, Bill Belichick went from Hall of Fame, not that he's not going to be in the NFL Hall of Fame, he is, but Bill Belichick went from the best, potentially being the best football coach of all time. That's like the air that he was in. And since then, they've gotten rid of Tom Brady and his team absolutely tanked. He sucked as a coach without Tom Brady, and he wasn't that good of a coach prior to Tom Brady. He was okay. He was great with Tom Brady. Now, after Tom Brady, terrible at the Patriots, horrible draft classes, horrible just terrible Patriots teams fielded post Tom Brady. A lot of that was blamed on Mac Jones. He got Mac Jones was a scapegoat in New England, and look at Mac Jones now. Went over to San Fran, absolutely balling. So Mac Jones' kind of ascension with the 49ers makes Bill Belichick look bad. So Tom Brady going and winning a Super Bowl without him makes him look bad. Mac Jones arriving without him makes him look bad. And then for whatever reason, he goes and decides to coach college football, and his team is a complete and utter joke. Now, it's only been the first year of him being there, but their team stinks, and it makes him look bad. So I don't know if anyone's had a worse run out than Bill Belichick over the last few years. Respect him off the field. Look, I don't know. I'm not going to dive into that. I don't really know what's going on there. But I would say, yeah, respect game on that side of things. But man, his football reputation is just like in the gutter the last few years. It's been bad. Lean Navy over Air Force. Those service academy games can get weird in terms of like covering big spreads, but Air Force's defense is really bad. Navy is going to run just all over them. So would lean the Navy side of that one. Moving down, trying to see other stuff that I bet or I'm interested in. I like App State over Oregon State at home. Kind of wanted to fade this App State team coming into the season, but this Oregon State team is terrible. So I'll take them like at a really small number at home, kind of like App State. Kind of like Vandy to cover. This spread's moved up. Like Vandy's always kind of inherently a public dog, which I don't like. But I think they could cover against Bama. Could be a little bit of a letdown spot for Bama coming off that big win over Georgia. But it's also a revenge spot because Vandy beat them last year. So I don't know. I kind of like Vandy in that one, but it's just on the medium like for me, not like a huge play or anything. I think SMU will absolutely roll Syracuse. That should be a blowout. You'll never catch me betting on the Akron Zips football team, but I think they're live at home against Central Michigan. Central Michigan is terrible. But I mean, Akron sucks too. Not telling you much there. I think Washington beats Maryland pretty handily, even with the travel. And then I think Florida's live at home here. So Florida, like, I know Lagway has been rough at times, but I still think there's a good quarterback in there. And if you look at Florida, just the schedule that they've played to start your season out, you know, like they come out, they destroy LIU 55-0. That's fine. And then they lose a close one to South Florida. And that looked kind of bad at the time. But I think South Florida is like one of the best group of 5 teams in the country. So maybe it doesn't look that bad, even though they should have won the game. Then they play LSU and lose very close to LSU. And then they play Miami and, 26-7. It was what? Like 14-6 going to the fourth quarter. So again, they kept it really close with Miami for the majority of the game. If Texas had played this schedule, like what would Texas's record be? Like if Texas had to play South Florida, LSU, and Miami instead of Ohio State and like nobody's, like I think Texas could have 2 losses. So I really don't want to blame Florida because they've played just a gauntlet schedule. Like look at this schedule. So they played South Florida, then they played LSU, Miami, they played Texas A&M, they played Georgia, they play Ole Miss, they play Tennessee, they play Florida State. Like nightmare schedule for the Florida Gators this year. But I like Florida at home to cover. I think they're live to win the game, but I took a 5.5 on Florida. There's a 6.5 on Fanatics if you have access to that, so you could take that. But I like Florida in that one. I like Nebraska over Michigan State pretty big. You could talk me into that one. I think Texas Tech should roll Houston. You could talk me into that. We already talked about it on the stream earlier, but really like Wyoming. UNLV is a team I think you could short. I don't think UNLV is very good. Weird things happen up in Laramie, Wyoming. They always seem to keep it close against teams. I think Wyoming is live for an upset there. So I definitely like that one. I kind of agree with you, Nathan. I could see Miami winning, but Florida State covering, or I could see an upset. I think that's going to be a close game, so you could talk me into taking points there. I like Texas A&M over Mississippi State. Texas A&M is really, really good. I actually considered taking a national title future on them. I kind of like this. I like this Texas A&M team a lot. TCU should roll Colorado, even though I hate them. And then I think Cal is live at home over Duke. And Memphis should beat up on Tulsa. So that's kind of my thoughts on the college slate. Really like Cincinnati. Really like Wyoming. And Florida. That's probably my 3 favorite spots if I had to pick. Florida spread, Wyoming spread, and Cincy on the money line. Kansas -4. I definitely think Kansas is a better team than UCF, but kind of a sneaky tough place to play. UCF has a good crowd. And Jalen Daniels, man, I don't know. I feel like Jalen Daniels is like good once a game for just the dumbest turnover you've ever seen. Like he's a really frustrating player to bet on. Like, there's going to be a fumble in that game. Like, Jalen Daniels is going to fumble in that game somehow. I don't know. He just always seemed to does it. It's so weird. He's such a weird player. For him being like as experienced as he is, he makes some dumb turnovers. Trey, agree with Purdue. I didn't talk about that, but Illinois is not good. They almost lost to Purdue last year. I don't think Purdue is very good, but Illinois is the most fake good team. Illinois should not be ranked. I'm sorry if you're an Illinois fan. You can't get beat by 50 and still get respect from like the voters. Like Illinois is not good. So yes, Purdue 100% can be in that game, can cover that spread. Illinois stinks, and if you want to bet against Illinois any week, I think you can do that comfortably. But Cincinnati, Florida, and Wyoming, those are kind of my big spots this week. I might jump in on Kansas State. I'll think about it. But I definitely want to do an underdog round robin this week, so I'll probably just throw them in that. But I don't know. I might get involved. I just love torture and I love pain. So betting on Avery Johnson, and there's just no better way to torture yourself for an hour and a half than watching Avery Johnson play football. But here we are. Purdue quarterback and wide receiver DFS. I think that's a pretty good move. I wish I could play college DFS in Ohio, man. I would just love it. All right. Overall, kind of a quicker stream today, but that's kind of how that's kind of how the Fridays have been going. College rundown. I'm gonna I'll tweet some college bets too. If you guys missed it or joined late, NFL on Sunday, 11 a.m. I want all you guys in here. Huge stream Sunday morning. We're gonna do NFL bets, touchdowns, DFS talk. We'll go position by position through the DFS slate. We'll answer all your questions, season long, betting, all that good stuff. So Sunday morning at 11 a.m. I expect to see all of you. Good luck if you're betting tonight, even though there's really only college football to bet on tonight. Good luck tomorrow with college football. And I will see everybody on Sunday morning.